Welcome, everyone, to episode 4 of the Golden Squeeze podcast. Episode number 4. One episode for each viewer on our
Very loyal
YouTube
viewers.
podcast. Very loyal. They are upset because this is probably coming to you a little bit late, but that's okay because you know what they say? Better late than never. Now, let's talk about Monday Night Raw. It kicked off
Let's do
with
it.
Jimmy and Jay going nose to nose in the ring. Jay poured his heart to Jimmy, letting him know how much he misses him. But Jimmy was having none of it. Jimmy took credit for every good thing that has ever happened to Jay. He took credit for all the moments. He took credit for all the merch that Jay is selling as a singles competitor. He said that no yeet. Still don't know what that means. I want one of our 20-year-old viewers, which there are exactly 0 of, to message in the comments exactly what yeet means, because I still don't know, but I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. But it was funny because he said that he's going to knock the yeet out of his ass. So I don't know what that means, but that's fine. That's fine. But Jimmy and Jay, WrestleMania 40. It's going to be a good match. Jay said it's his dream match, and it's going to go in the pantheon of Owen versus Brett, Matt versus Jeff, brother versus brother. So I think this will be the 3rd time that brothers have squared off at WrestleMania, and it should be a good one.
Yeah, and I don't know if we touched on this last time or not. It's got to kick off the show. It has to. I mean, this is part of the what. It's debatable whether or not there's been enough build to this, or a proper build to this, or the whole. We could go back and discuss the way Jimmy turned on Jay and if you liked that or hated it. But at the end of the day, this is still part of the longest storyline in WWE in forever. And especially culminating family against family, it's got to kick off the show. It has to.
Yeah, for sure. I think that it will, and I think that it will be a proper start to WrestleMania weekend because they're going to go after it. We're going to have a super kick counter when the match actually starts. I'm taking the over of 14 and a half super kicks because they're going to be kicking each other left and right. And some will like that, some will not. We'll probably see about 15 Uso splashes, but it's going to be a banger. They're going to go at it. They're going to put their heart and soul into it because I can only imagine how fun it would be to go up against your brother in a WrestleMania match. So they're going to have fun with it. They're going to have fun with it.
Are you surprised Rikishi hasn't done anything on screen with the two of them yet?
I am, because he's posted a couple things.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's expressed a desire to do so. So I'm surprised that he hasn't done anything yet. But I don't know. Maybe they think that this feud's too serious and Rikishi's too much of a playful character to incorporate him into this. But I mean, before Rikishi was Rikishi, he played a lot of serious characters, so he could definitely.
And
he could definitely play a role.
And this is different. This isn't him out there like dancing around and all that stuff. I mean, this is his sons in a heated feud, and I assumed if this match ever came to be, or whenever it came to be, that he would be the guest referee. And I mean, I guess it's still possible, but their time for that is running out very quickly.
Yeah. But then that might force him to make a decision, which would be very tough for him to do. And that would be a storyline in and of itself. I don't think there's enough time to incorporate Rikishi into the match from that perspective. Now, at the very least, he has to be at ringside when the match goes down. He has to be there. After they beat each other up, my guess is they embrace in the ring. They put their feud aside. Rikishi comes in, hugs his two sons, and then Solo comes out and Samoan spikes all of them.
I was going to say, I don't know if I see. I don't know if I see them hugging it out prior to at least the end of the tag match on night one with Roman and Rock against Seth and Cody. I just see I see that side of the bloodline still being intact. At least going into that match. Maybe not now with Rikishi. If he's not the referee, I could definitely. What are your thoughts on him preventing Solo from interfering? Is his involvement?
I could see that too. I could definitely see that role. I don't see Solo getting involved too much in this match, but maybe. Actually, no. I immediately take that back because Solo did come out during the promo. When the promo was over with, Solo came out and there was a little bit of a brawl. So he did play a role in the promo on Monday. So my guess is he will play some role, as he always does, in the match. I'm surprised that they didn't try to work him into the show some way, form, or fashion, because he's been a good, loyal soldier, saying nothing, losing all of his matches. He should be rewarded some way, somehow, by the company for just being there, playing his role the best that he can, even in the face of adversity. Because, like I told you in the last episode or 2 episodes ago, he's got one win in the past 6 months. So we'll see how it plays out. But the one thing that I know for sure is that they will tell a story, and they will entertain us as the Usos always do, and that is why they are one of the top 10 greatest tag teams of all time. Probably, maybe even top 5. But that is a list to make for another day. After that, we got DIY versus the Creed brothers. And Creed brothers are skilled wrestlers. I will say that. They are very skilled wrestlers. And this was actually a really good match. It was a hard-fought battle, and Creed brothers are just they're just technically sound wrestlers, and DIY, they're always going to tell a good story in the ring. So I thought that it was a really good match. I always enjoyed watching DIY, and I enjoy watching the Creed brothers. I don't think they have the best gimmick, but I think that they're very good in-ring technicians, and I could watch them. I could watch them. I could watch them fight all day. I just think that they're really, really, really good in the ring.
Yeah, especially seeing how well received that match was. It kind of makes you wonder if afterwards they're like, oh shit, maybe we should have rearranged things to get them on the card. But I mean, just in terms of main roster recognition, maybe they just didn't feel they have enough of that at this point for a WrestleMania title match.
But don't want to harp too much on the match, just to say other than it was a really good match, because what came up next is what everyone wanted to see. They put Cody's promo smack dab in the middle of Monday Night Raw, and he had a scathing promo against The Rock. He talks with such passion, and outside of his lisp, he's a really good talker.
I still have not noticed this lisp that you're talking about. You say that every time we talk about it. I have yet to hear it.
Well, then maybe you have a lisp, so you don't know how a person's supposed to talk. But he has a terrible lisp, not as bad as his dad, but it's clear that I guess a lisp is hereditary because Dusty had it, and he has it too. He uses a lot of tongue when he talks, but yeah, I'm not going to criticize Cody's lisp, but he does have it. And here it was on full display, but I've grown to like it. I think that Cody is one of the best on the mic because he always talks with a purpose, and that's one of the problems with a lot of these wrestlers. I told you when I watched NXT, there was just some bad mic work because these people, it does not seem like they believe what they are saying. And when you're giving a promo, if you want it to be good, you have to believe in the words that are coming out of your mouth. It's the reason why Roman Reigns and his initial run as a baby face, and he was talking about suffering succotash. Nobody nobody bought, like, people don't talk like that, and it's clear that no one's gonna. He doesn't believe in what he's saying because what he was being told to say was stupid. But once he got some freedom and started believing what he has to say and started talking with more passion, he became a great promo guy. But Cody's always been a good promo guy. I mean, he learned from one of the best ever. So
Yes.
and you can see a lot of his daddy in his promos, just the way that he talks. But just setting up the feud between Roman and the wise man came out, interrupted, and started laying seeds of doubt. But what they really did was set up SmackDown, as there was a promise from the wise man that there would be no, if he comes to the ring on Friday and meets face to face with Roman Reigns, he will ensure that no other member of the bloodline was present. In return, though, he asked for Cody to make the same promise, that nobody from his side be present for his confrontation with Roman Reigns on SmackDown. So we'll talk about SmackDown later. Everyone's watched wrestling for long enough where you didn't have to watch it to know what was ultimately going to happen on SmackDown. But promises were made. We'll see if they are kept. We'll talk about that later. But it was a solid Cody promo. It's been a solid build up all around. I kudos to The Rock for, even though he wasn't involved in this, but just kudos to him for being involved a lot more than a lot of part-timers are in this role. Because, we've seen a lot of times where there's guys who are fighting part-timers and they are doing all of the heavy lifting because the part-timers not showing up, they're not giving promos. And obviously The Rock's not at everything, but he's been at a lot. He's also using social media. So I'm happy that he is taking this seriously and doing everything he can to help promote this as well.
Well, let's say what you will about him or in the past, and I think it's very obvious The Rock will always love this business. Even John, saw the light of some of the things he had previously said and just realized, hey, the man's busy, and you can still tell how much he loves doing this. But
right.
But also, it doesn't surprise me how involved he is, because let's face it, with his star power there, and I have a hard time believing that there weren't assurances and contracts signed assuring a certain amount of appearances going forward, leading into and during this Netflix mega deal.
Yeah.
Because I have a hard time believing that gets done without The Rock being heavily involved with that. Behind the scenes as member of TKO and in an on-screen role to bring viewers there.
Yeah.
But
yeah. And yeah, I understand all of that. He obviously wants to bring the viewers to Netflix, but I'm of the mindset that at this point, if you're not already watching wrestling, you're not gonna watch it. No new viewers are coming ever. I don't think that wrestling gets new fans. I honestly think that way. Except for maybe like kids, our children. I don't think they get a lot of new fans. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Okay, maybe I don't know about necessarily brand new. I agree with what you said, except like younger ones just getting into it. But I think, I told you how I came back to it. When you have some of that nostalgia and you see something, and then you're getting maybe some of these people that, like, hey, Rock's back on, and they start.
That's a good point.
Start
Yeah.
seeing him again because I mean he was such a huge star, and just about everybody on the planet knows who The Rock is.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to something you said though, real quick about Cody. I,
And his lisp.
I've done that, and every time you say that, I listen for it, and I haven't heard it, but now I'm having to keep listening. And Cody, he's just kidding. In case you ever come on our show, but I love his promos as well. I agree with what you said about his mic work, but it, I think his promos only go as far as the feuds, like the stuff with Nakamura and some of those where you knew damn good and well he was not losing those matches. It's like, okay, hey, the usual impassioned great promo, putting over your opponent and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, in this one especially, where there is still a little bit of doubt as to what exactly is going to happen. Okay, maybe he beats Roman. Probably will beat Roman night 2. But does he win night 1? Does he lose and have to overcome those extra odds on night 2 to put that cherry on top of the feud? And
They're losing night 1.
who?
It's gonna be Cody and Seth are losing night 1. That I think you don't plant the seeds of a Bloodlines rules match and not have a Bloodline rules match. It's definitely going to be them losing the tag match, probably because of something stupid that Seth does, and then going on to night 2 and The Rock overshadowing Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns, in a jealous fit, attacks The Rock. They're hitting each other, and then Cody does something like hits him with a chair, then pins him. Probably hits him 40 times with the chair so they can make him look strong, and then pins him, and then because they realize that you can have The Rock versus Roman, and you don't need a title for it, and then Cody wins the title.
So you don't see. I think it's very plausible that Rock and Roman lose night 1 because of something with Rock accidentally bumping into Roman or vice versa, causing a distraction, and then the fallout starting there, leading to the one-on-one match, and without Roman being able to have his sidekicks at the ring, that's what cost him, and then that starts planting the seeds for either, well, is higher profile as SummerSlam is becoming, that Rock versus Roman's going to be at WrestleMania whenever it happens. But I could see it going either way. But that kind of goes back to what I was saying. That to me makes these promos more enjoyable to me, is because there is that unknown. It's not like a foregone conclusion. It's like, okay, man, we get it. We get you're putting over Shinsuke and whoever else, that these filler feuds that we know you're going to win. But the back and forth, they're more enjoyable to me because there is, especially with the 2 different matches and all the uncertainty surrounding it, there is a lot of that unknown still. And that's to me, that's what makes a great talker. That to me is what makes their promos even greater, is in these situations of uncertainty. It makes me enjoy it more personally.
Yeah. No, 100%. I guess I could see The Rock and Roman losing night 1, but I just think that they really want. I think that if they win night 1, it gives the viewer less hope that Cody's going to win. And I think that's what they want to do. Throw it off the scent a little bit, make us think, oh, Roman's going to win again. So then it's that much more enjoyable when Cody does win.
Yeah.
But
yeah. And that much
I
more
don't know.
enjoyable when the glass shatters and Stone Cold makes The Rock do a triple backflip out of the ring with a stunner.
Where they have the most backwards booking ever, and all of a sudden, when the night's over, Stone Cold is your new WWE Universal Champion. And then he goes on to have the longest title reign ever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Moving on to the next match. I only want to touch on it briefly, but it was Ricochet versus Dominic Mysterio. And they're really setting the tone for the bloodline. For the bloodline just getting frustrated with the losing going on by Dominic and
You mean
Mr. McDonough.
the Judgment Day? Did you say that?
Yeah, the Judgment Day.
Okay.
I don't know. I thought I did, but maybe
or, I don't know. I've still got Bloodline on the brain and Stone Cold coming out.
Maybe I did say Bloodline. And then Stone Cold's going to come out in the next Dominic Mysterio match. But no, I think that they're just really starting to show the cracks in the Judgment Day as Damian Priest and Finn Balor are starting to get frustrated with Dominic Mysterio. I mean, we've only got so much more time with the Judgment Day before it disbands. So curious to see what exactly they do, how they disband it, because it's going to happen sooner rather than later. But Ricochet pick up the win.
God, that guy's so good, man.
Oh yeah, my son has his poster on his wall. It's a Sarah wrestler. He doesn't get his flowers enough. So he used to go by the name, I guess, Prince Puma when he was on the Indies, and Pat McAfee. Oh,
McAfee.
I saw it. I can't remember, but one of them was referring to Ricochet as saying that he moved like a puma. And so I'm curious to see where they go with that, because that can't be unintentional. I mean, maybe it is. I don't know how prepared. I thought McAfee said it first, but if he didn't, okay. It would make more sense for Michael Cole, because I feel like Michael Cole is probably a lot more prepared than Pat McAfee is, and knows a lot more than Pat McAfee does. So maybe not, but see where they go with that, because Ricochet, he could really use, I think, a character change of some sort, because he's just so talented. But I think the Ricochet persona, I just don't. I don't know if that can take him to the next level. So he needs to do something else. So put a mask on the guy, go back to Prince Puma, and see if he can take that to the next level, because he's just very talented, and he could go places. He could be a contender for the Workhorse title. He could be a contender for the Intercontinental title one day. Not today, but one day, if you change his character. I think that would be a good title for him.
And we will touch back on Dominic Mysterio and some of the dissension in the Judgment Day when we get to SmackDown, because yeah, but we'll get more into that later.
Yeah. Then we had a contract signing. Nothing, really, not much to it. But Sami Zayn and Gunther had a contract signing. It was your typical standard contract. Actually, it wasn't your standard contract signing, only because contract signing normally goes, sign the contract. Oh, you sign the contract, flip over a table, fight each other, blah, blah, blah. There actually was no physical confrontation between Gunther and Sami Zayn. They just had a little conversation, and Gunther said he didn't believe that Sami Zayn really wanted it. And some of the things that in backstage segments were echoed by Chad Gable, saying that he doesn't know how to beat Gunther, and he doesn't need this or want this, and that Chad Gable wants it more. Curious to see whether or not they're going to try to make this a triple threat at some point, because they had Gable in two separate segments talking to Sami Zayn about this match and how it should have been him. And I don't know why you would do that unless you're going to involve them some way.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't think that there was that much backlash over Sami Zayn winning. I think that most people probably would have preferred for Chad Gable to win, but people love
Right.
Sami, so I don't think it's a situation where the fans are up in arms and now they're going to have a match between Chad Gable and Sami Zayn to see who wins. But it's just interesting that they involved Gable in backstage segments on multiple occasions on this episode of Raw. So we'll see where they go with that.
Though, if that happens, which I agree. I think they're planting the seeds for a triple threat. But again, that would kind of eliminate the point of the gauntlet match that they just had, unless they establish. And I know we're going to be a little bit behind here on all this, but not on tonight's Raw, but because I think they've announced most of the stuff there already, but maybe some type of match for the following week, the go home Raw. And hey, if you win, then you're in. But I agree at this point, feel a little bit rushed, but I would lean more towards Priest cashing in if it was a singles match between Zayn and Gunther as opposed to during the triple threat. But it's
don't forget though,
unless Gunther's going to win, he can't lose clean to one of those two. He can't do it, and he better not.
The greatest cash in of all time was in a triple threat match.
No. That's what I'm saying. If it remains Gunther versus Zayn, I think it's a foregone conclusion. Damian Priest is cashing in. But if you already have the triple threat match, I think it's a little less likely he comes in that match for a cash in. It would make him look silly. More obstacles in your way. I mean, I think it would be a bad.
Well, he's running out of time.
Well, no, I mean, I understand that, but I mean, yeah, if it's a 1-on-1, I think it's a foregone conclusion. Damian Priest is cashing in. But if it's that triple threat again, and a reason I like that is like, okay, well, is he going to? Is he not going to? Because they did plant the seeds for that with the segment with the factions a few weeks ago, and some of the other stuff afterwards, and so yeah, that'll be interesting because I would have never thought after the gauntlet that they would entertain making it a triple threat, but I mean, yeah, obviously with these promos and some of the other stuff, circulate. Yeah, it seems like that may be where we're headed for that match.
Yeah,
but I do not, under any circumstances, want Gunther to lose clean to either one of those, and that's strictly because of the way that they have been booked. That they have not been booked strong enough to dethrone this long-term title reign. But the only acceptable way for a title change to happen off of Gunther is going to be a cash-in.
Yeah, or Gable pinning Sami Zayn after they double team Gunther, put him through tables, hit him with chairs, and then he's not even involved in losing his title, which is not the way that I want to see it happen. But he doesn't have, if it's a triple threat, he does not have to be the one involved. So it could be a double team action on Gunther.
No, and that's a good, that's a great point, because then if that happens, I think that means they've changed plans for the cash in.
But it could be that they incapacitate Gunther for a little bit, so then it's a 1-on-1, and then Priest comes out, and I'm assuming that it's going to be a hard fought battle. So they're beat up. I don't know. We just got to remember when Brock Lesnar was fighting Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins comes out, and Brock Lesnar gets speared.
Mm-hmm.
He gets out of the picture, and then what's his face gets stomped.
Rollins stomped Reigns.
Rollins stomped Reigns. So we could get something like that. I don't know. We'll see. The good news is that we are a week and a half away from finding out, because there's going to be a lot of I told you so's to my 3 viewers, to you, and to that one guy in the comment section who is being a complete mean person. That
4 viewers, Josh. 4 viewers. Unless we lost one again.
I'm sure we did. It's going to happen. The next match we are not going to talk about. I will touch on it, though. It was the Awesome Truth versus Indus Sher. The Awesome Truth won to etch their name as one of the 5 opponents of the Judgment Day for the 6-pack ladder match at WrestleMania. R-Truth had a bunch of antics. I guess we're not going to talk about it a lot, but I will talk about it briefly. But R-Truth had some antics where he saw Indus Sher before the match and said, "Oh, I'd hate to be the people fighting those guys." And then Miz goes, "We are the ones fighting those guys." But R-Truth got knocked out, and he happened to land on one of the guys, and he pinned one of them while he was knocked out. So a typical R-Truth win by accident. No harm there.
God, I hope Cena shows up.
He did do a 5-knuckle shuffle in the match, but my only gripe with this match has nothing to do with the match. Well, I mean, the match is what it is. So I'm not sitting here saying it's 5 stars because it wasn't. But it's not a match you would expect to be good. It's a match that you'd expect to be entertaining, which it was. And my issue is with the announcers. And this is what I talked about with Tamina Snuka in previous podcasts, and even to an extent, the Big Show later in his career and Omos. If everybody beats you, why do you continue to push it like they're an unstoppable force?
Who beat Omos besides Brock?
Maybe not Omos.
Yeah.
Who am I thinking of?
Nice try.
Who am I thinking of? Not Omos. Gosh, who's the other big guy that always loses?
The Giant Gonzalez.
Well, yeah. Oh, I'll use AOP then. I don't care how big they are. If they lose every single time and the viewer knows they lose every single time, when you are an announcer and saying, "Oh, how are they going to overcome these odds?" Very simply, this team sucks, and the other team's going to
win. I thought for sure when they brought. Well, we can touch more on that later, but yeah, just AOP should be a dominant, unstoppable tag team, like they were in NXT.
They're not. Right, but they're not. So that's why I don't need the announcers to tell me that they are an unstoppable force that cannot be beat when they never win.
Oh, yeah.
Just keep your mouth shut. Stop hyping them up. You can say it all you want, and I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to make me think they can win.
Oh, yeah.
But I know they can't win. I've been watching wrestling for 35 years. I've been watching it since I was in preschool. I know they're not going to win because they're just not booked that way.
Oh, no.
They're booked the exact same way they were booked before they got fired.
No, and that goes back to what we were saying about the promo stuff. They may be a good team, but if you know they're not going to win, it's not going to mean as much what is being said.
Right. But they did that same thing with Indus Sher, making us think, "Oh, how are they going to overcome it?" They're going to overcome them because The Miz is a Hall of Famer and R-Truth is a Hall of Famer, and they were never going to lose to Indus Sher. It just was never going to happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Nobody wants to see Indus Sher at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. But I digress. It's just one of the most irritating things ever is when announcers try to make me believe in something that they don't believe in themselves, and they're just saying it when we know that they know we know that team's not going to win. But the show then went on to another promo between Seth Rollins Drew McIntyre starts coming to the ring, and before he can get to the ring, Seth Rollins comes out to the ring doing his dancing and singing, and he walks right by Drew McIntyre. And Drew McIntyre had the most irritated look on his face. And then they both get in the ring, and Seth goes, "Oh, Drew, I'm sorry, I didn't even see you there. I just went right by you." And it was funny. I'll give him that. And this was a great promo between the two of them. It was fiery. We know that Drew had been calling Seth an entertainment hog or a fame hog, always wanting the spotlight. And Seth went on a whole promo about, I love this business. Of course, I want that. I've been watching this my entire life. I love being here. I want, I want people to, enjoy my matches. Blah blah blah. But then he went on to say, "But you want that too, and that's why you're doing all that you're doing is because you want to be in the spotlight. You want to main event WrestleMania. You want the title so that everyone can adore you. So don't act like you are holier than thou when you're acting the exact same way that I am. It's just you're doing it with a frown on your face, and I'm doing it with a smile on mine." So it was a good promo, and I think that they're going to have a very good match at WrestleMania. Drew is very talented. Seth Rollins is very talented. I enjoy watching both of them fight. I end up having Seth Rollins in my Mount Rushmore of my favorite wrestlers. I think I might have ended up giving him the 4th spot in that because I love watching him wrestle. I think he's great at all aspects of sports entertainment, and I think that Drew is also. He's showing with his mic work recently that he is great at all areas of sports entertainment. So I think they've had a good build. They had some jabs at CM Punk as well, who will be at Raw. Yeah, I thought it was a good promo. I'm excited to see that match. It's a shame that they're not going to get a main event spot, and I hate what they're doing. I actually do agree with Drew in one sense that I don't like what they're doing with the heavyweight championship, and that it just seems like such a silver medal to the Universal title, and they're not making any qualms about it, and they're even calling it out, saying that that Seth's not respecting that title. He really isn't. If we're being honest, he's not really respecting that title.
Yeah.
He's more concerned with his feud, and I also recognize that this is exactly what they're trying to do, which is why it's been the topic of all of Drew McIntyre's promos for the past month. But I also, at the same time, even though it may be what they're trying to do, it still belittles the title. And they've spent a long time now trying to build these titles up after He Who Shall Not Be Named just disregarded every title that was not the Universal title. Gunther brought legitimacy to the Intercontinental title because they just did not care about the Intercontinental title for years. And the same with the tag titles. Vince did not care about tag team wrestling. And they've been trying to build these titles up, but they have not done a good job of trying to build up the World Heavyweight title. So we'll see what happens at WrestleMania, but I'm just upset that they can't get a main event spot. It's 2 nights. That title should be one of the main events. And I still in the mindset that Rock and Roman versus Seth and Cody should open one of the shows. Should open night 1. But it's never going to happen.
But man, here's the thing. I get it. I get it about the title situation with Rollins and McIntyre and all that, and the secondary title and this and that. But that was because of an injury. They had the night 1 main event locked in. It was,
yes.
100%. So, I think, and yeah, I know, like you said, we know it's by design, but I think there's a lot of people who are failing to see that from that side of it. That
I do see it from that side of it, but you can't blame an injury for just for delegitimizing a title. Yeah, I understand there's an injury, but there's nothing. Yes, CM Punk versus who he was going to fight Seth.
yes.
was going to be a great match. But Drew versus Seth can main event too. I understand they had to pivot, but that doesn't mean that they cannot still put that title at the forefront to make it mean more, because it doesn't feel right now that it means anywhere near what Roman's title means.
I get that, but again, this is WrestleMania. You're trying to fill an NFL stadium. An NFL stadium come on, hear me out. An NFL stadium for a main event, for the advertised main event. What is going to sell more tickets? The Rock or Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre, which you could see on Monday Night Raw?
But like you said, was Seth versus CM Punk going to sell out the stadium? Because that was going to be night one.
Yes.
So if you were...
Yes, it was.
No.
Yes.
There's no casual fan who cares about CM Punk. A casual fan doesn't know who that is.
I disagree.
He's not mainstream?
Yeah, yes, he is.
What did he do that was mainstream except for suck at UFC?
Oh, he was still there. He was still mainstream there. He is involved in a lot of these other things like Comic-Cons, doing these shows like behind the scenes and stuff like that.
People who go to Comic-Con are wrestling fans, though. I mean,
I'm saying there's other mainstream things like television shows and appearances and stuff like that he's involved in. And that stuff, like it or not, the stuff with AEW, how the fallout from there, that made worldwide news, how all that happened. The way he left WWE made worldwide news. And then all the stuff in terms of a wrestling fan standpoint, Seth Rollins has been poking and prodding at him for years. And then now those two great talkers come to a head, and like everybody wanted to see that. And hey, I'm 100% with you. I'm looking forward to the match between Drew and Seth. But again, that is a match that we could see on an episode of Monday Night Raw. When this happened with Punk came back, you knew they were going to slow build into this marquee main event match. And I'm going to hold to that. I think that will sell more tickets. Just the way I said, and that there's certain people on the roster that I think can hold their own when it comes to that. And I said that I didn't think they needed The Rock for that segment on Friday Night SmackDown, and they didn't. It sold out, and there was no Rock to be found because it was Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes, who people are more invested in that story and more interested in. And I think that would have been the same way if it was that build for Seth and Punk. That's just my thoughts. I just think people are more interested in that because of Punk is a more polarizing figure, and then all the shit talking amongst those two back and forth, blurring the lines of fact from fiction. I think 100% that would put more asses in the seats. And I'm not saying from a quality standpoint, I'm not saying that at all. I am definitely looking forward to that match. I truly am. Drew versus Seth, and that's not a knock on Drew McIntyre. I love Drew McIntyre, and I there's not a shadow of a doubt in my mind that contract has already been signed, and he is a WWE employee going forward for the foreseeable future, as he should be. He's worked hard. He's deserved it. He's doing great work in the ring and on the microphone. And I think he genuinely loves the company and wants to be there. I don't think he wants to go anywhere. But if he feels undervalued, then yeah, I think he'll go and get a higher payday, which he deserves that. And but again, I think I 100% think that we're not having this conversation about the title being devalued if they didn't have to do that pivot just a couple of months out.
Yeah, maybe. maybe, but I don't know. I just remember when we were kids, every title just meant so much more. Uh, in my opinion, it might have been I was a kid and I cared more. I don't know, but I just felt like the Intercontinental Champion. It it was important. Heavyweight champion. It was important. Even the European Championship, like when D'Lo Brown was European champion, like that was important. We knew who that champion was. I barely even know who half the champions are half the time. And now they're moving in the right direction when it comes to titles, but no, compared to where it was,
It depends. U.S. title, yeah, maybe. I like the way
we
that.
got Randy Orton in the U.S. title match.
Yes, and I like the way that is being booked much better than how they did the Intercontinental title. There is genuine, okay, any one of those guys could win that match because of how they're
Yeah.
booked, what they do, the old school heel tactics, and I'm going to say it right now, there is no way in hell Logan Paul is going into SummerSlam in Cleveland without a title. It ain't happening.
Oh, he's not going to go home without a title.
He's not losing at WrestleMania. Had SummerSlam been anywhere at Cleveland, I'd say, oh yeah, any one of them could win. But once they announced that, I was like, okay, I don't see it. I don't see any chance. Which, and I'll be eating a crow sandwich when Randy Orton or KO wins. But I don't see him going into Cleveland without a title.
Nah, he's going to win with some interference from his brother. If I had to guess, don't know exactly what he's going to do.
Or KSI get revenge for the RKO. Well, actually, I take that back. He may still be unconscious from that based on his selling of that one he took.
But, yeah. I mean, we got to remember the ring was going to be branded with Prime as well. You're not going to have the ring branded in Prime and have him lose, I wouldn't think.
But then I'm sitting here thinking that and again, I think I say this every time I bring him up, but say what you will about him, but he doesn't seem like a selfish guy when it comes to the industry. I think he respects the industry and respects the fact that he's the new Jack when it comes there. But they also see on the flip side of that he is putting in the time and the effort, and they respect him for that.
Yeah. I think that he cares about making money.
Well, of course he does.
But what I mean by that is he's going to do whatever is best for the business because he knows that doing what's best for the business will make
for business
and the most money in the future. But we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But on the next match, I really don't care about this 6-pack tag team match. Just going to be honest with you.
I'm curious to see what happens. If this is if they're going to keep all the gold or if they're going to slowly start losing it. I am curious. I am.
Yeah. I care. These qualifiers, though, Otis and Tozawa versus the New Day. So Alpha Academy versus the New Day. Again, good teams. Otis moves very well for a man his size, and Tozawa is I mean, he is what he is. And the New Day, they are again one of the best tag teams or factions ever. So it was a good match. It was definitely an entertaining match.
Oh, yeah.
The New Day came out on top. I never for 1 second thought that Otis and Tozawa were going to be at WrestleMania in that high-profile match. So you knew exactly who was going to win the second that the match started. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I watched NXT, and Tozawa and Otis were on NXT for most of the episode and backstage segments. So it looked like they literally had nothing to do. So they were just walking in the back, interrupting everybody's interviews. But knew they weren't going to win, knew the New Day was going to win, and they did. Don't need to go too far in depth into that because I'd rather get to the main event, which was a last women's standing match between Becky Lynch and Nia Jax. So, what I want to say about this match is I'm going to have the same criticism I had of this match that I had of the New Day versus Imperium match from 4 weeks ago.
The street fight?
The street fight, yeah. My criticism of that match was I don't want a street fight that is 5 minutes. I need a longer street fight. This is a last woman standing match, and it was probably 7 minutes. I didn't have my stopwatch out. But you just can't have a last woman standing match that is over like that. You gotta have some time on those type of matches, or else it just makes you look weak because you're getting knocked out and you're out in the first 5 minutes. Then that just makes you look weak, and that, to me, that's what they did to Nia. It was a good match while it was on, but it was so quick that it just made Nia look a little weak.
Well, they've already successfully done that. Unfortunately, they built her up.
Well, she's Big Show.
But they could have easily avoided that because she's looked great. She's looked unstoppable. And there's so many little things, easy things they could have done to not have her take these clean losses. I guess it'd still be clean with the solution I said, like against Rhea. I do not like that they had her kick out of the Annihilator the way that she did with the shoulders up. She's over there in the corner. Just have it to where she barely gets a foot up on the rope. And then, hey, still have the sequence go the way it did with Rhea hitting Riptide and winning in Australia. I've got no issues with that. Everybody knew Rhea was going to win that match. No problem with that. But then, God, and just still the way they let Becky kick out of some of those moves in the first match, and just the way that went down, and then her now losing this last woman standing match. I mean, what is that now? Three matches in a row that Nia's lost? Or what happened in the first one when Becky kicked out of the Nia leg drop off the rope? Did Liv Morgan interfere in that one? But
yes.
So did Nia win that one, or did Beck?
I don't even think they even said who won. I just think it was just a disqualification. Okay. I don't even know if they said who it was on, but there was an Annihilator that was done in this match. And obviously, the person who did the Annihilator did not win. So Nia did the Annihilator on Becky, but she did. This is one of the things in wrestling that bothers me. It's sometimes they make it hard to suspend disbelief, but she did the Annihilator, and then she immediately stood up and just started cheering with the crowd, like doing like this and getting really cocky.
Yeah, instead of,
and I just don't know why. Instead of winning, you just did your finisher,
and then, but yes, there's, and again, like there's a way they could have done that too. Like, okay, like you're walking around and then you go up because you're cocky and you're a heel. Instead of just walking around and waiting for her to get up, you go like you're going to go up for another one, and then you miss that one. I mean, there's so many little things they could do to not diminish a great power heel like that. And it just, I thought to some degree that crap was going to stop, and it hasn't. No, and it hasn't, and it just, oh God, and Nia has looked great in the ring, and I thought she was presented well when she came back, but just now, I don't know why are they are doing that. I am on team Nia, and I just think now that they're back to some of the same old crap when it comes
Yeah.
to like, okay, now you're gonna have to rebuild that, that win-loss credibility when it wouldn't have been that big of a hole to dig out of, but because of the way the match was booked and some of the little things that could have been tweaked, now it's a much bigger hole to dig out of.
Well, I look at a person like Nia, and she's just so much bigger than everybody else that I feel like if she won next week, it would almost make you forget about all the losses. Because
It depends on
no
who
matter
she
how much they make
beats.
her lose, well, yeah, but she's just so big.
But
I feel like if she just wins once, she becomes believable again. I don't know if she can be buried into the ground
but
with losses.
herein lies the problem with that. I mean, I know I see what you're saying, and that's a very valid, good point, and I didn't think of it that way, but that's a very good point. But then for her to beat some of these ones that are at that tier, then they're going to be diminished. Like, so what are you going to do? Have her beat Liv Morgan, who's looking better and better in the ring each time since she's come back? And
Yes. I don't want to live in a world where it's believable that Liv Morgan could beat Nia Jax. It's just not a world. I also I shouldn't even really live in a world where it's believable that Becky Lynch could beat Nia Jax. Becky Lynch is 120 pounds.
Josh, I could do 4 hours by myself about how preposterous it was she kicked out of that leg drop from the rope.
Yeah. There's only 4 people who should be able to beat Nia, who could believably beat Nia, and that's Bianca,
Rhea,
Jade Cargill, and
strength wise, Raquel,
Charlotte. Yeah, Raquel and Charlotte. Those are the only 5. That's 5. There's 5 women who could believably, and I'm pushing it with Charlotte.
I was gonna say if we're going on like a size difference thing,
Charlotte's a strong.
No, I'm
woman,
not
though.
saying she's not, but I mean, but still, like just overall size wise, she's still.
There's 4. Raquel, Bianca, Rhea, Jade.
I don't even like do it. I definitely think you could put Becky and Charlotte in there. There's certain
You can't.
Hold on. If as long as you don't have them kicking out of certain moves.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they need shenanigans. They need
shenanigans. And I know I gripe about the manhandle slam being a legitimate finisher as well as natural selection. However, with those being established, known finishers, those are moves that both of them, even though you're not going to get like a Big Show choke slam height, Nia could help her like lift herself up into the air and perform the move properly, as I think she already has. And then obviously Nia just has to be like seated up, like sit in the middle of the ring for natural selection to be done. That's what I mean. I think with those established great wrestlers, and then even same with Bayley, with a Bayley to belly, she could do that with Nia's help. And I guess that's the point I'm making with these established finishers from the truly great wrestlers in that division. That's where I'm going with that. As long as they don't have them repeatedly kick out of the Annihilator and turnbuckle leg drops, that is not believable.
Yeah.
And I do not like
that.
I do not like that at all. And again, just something so minor is Rhea in that match, just putting putting her leg up on the rope as opposed to shouldering up. And I just,
you gotta let it go, Wade.
I can't.
You gotta
No,
let it
I
go.
can't. Not until Stone Cold comes out at WrestleMania.
And he stuns Nia Jax.
Oh,
So that was how the show ended. It was a good Raw. I enjoyed it. It wasn't anything that was too crazy, but it continued to further a lot of feuds, getting ready for WrestleMania. So it was what it was. It was pretty standard fare. Nothing that was objectionable. Nothing that was really all that great. So, in ring, obviously there were some great promos, which we talked about earlier, but all it does is get me even more jazzed up for WrestleMania, and I'm excited for April, what is it, 6th? 5th?
6th and 7th.
6th and 7th. Excited for April 6th and 7th. Now, I think that we should skip NXT this week.
What about the Don? I was going to put on my hat.
Even more reason that we should skip NXT this week.
Why? Because I didn't watch it.
I don't know enough about these people to talk about it. I can try, but we're not giving
All right
too much insight into each.
Yeah, go ahead, because no, I did not get a chance to watch this week. Just again, me and Josh have full-time jobs and families and whatnot, so it's time gets limited. But no, I think I'm familiar enough with the storylines now and caught up. If
all right, I'll try it. All right, so on to NXT, which I actually attempted to watch this week. Not gonna lie, I didn't know a lot of I've heard a lot of the names based off of our previous episodes, but I've made it very clear in previous episodes that I don't watch NXT.
That's going to change if you're going to be a Potter.
It is changing because I watched this one, but one of the problems I was running into was if I turned away for the entrance, then I didn't know who was who when they were calling out names until the match was over and a hand was being raised. So when Perez was fighting Paxley, I didn't know who was who, but I figured it out eventually, and they actually put on a pretty good match. There was a little bit of talking at the end. One of the themes that I'm going to take away from NXT from my experience this week was I don't really need to hear a lot of these people talk. They need to continue to go to their promo classes, and because there was not a believable promo in the entire 60 minutes or hour and a half that the show actually runs for. I just, some of them talked in a way where you could just tell that it was just so heavily scripted, and the things that were being said were just absolutely ridiculous. It was almost as if Vince was writing the scripts for these people. Shawn Michaels, for some of these, should be ashamed of himself. But I digress. But Perez and Paxley put on a good match. It was one that I actually did enjoy. And afterwards, Valkyria demanded that Ava make a title match for stand and deliver, and that was granted. And one thing that I didn't know is who the hell Ava was. I did not realize that The Rock's daughter is apparently the general manager for NXT.
Youngest GM.
Yeah, how old is she? 21?
I think I don't know if she's 20, but she's in her 20s for sure. Hell, Roxanne Perez is only 22, so.
Here's the one thing I will tell you. There is not a chance in hell that she would be on this program if she was not related to The Rock. And I'm basing this off of 60 seconds of seeing her. So I could be totally off base. I could be totally wrong. But she looked like a deer with the headlights on, or a deer in the headlights out there.
Yeah,
for the very limited time that I saw her.
I was surprised when they put her in that role. I think she's done fine, and I mean in terms of from on-screen interactions and all that. But I think a common theme with NXT, even even somebody like, Perez, who I think is, it didn't sound the most natural, and she had a fairly long promo, either last week or the week before, and it was good. She didn't miss a beat, but it didn't sound
Okay.
like natural. But I think a lot of that
Yeah.
is because, they're still learning the business and the ins and outs and the nuances of, the promos. And my God, she's 22 and one of the best female wrestlers on the roster.
But if she's 22 and that green, you don't put her in the role of a general manager for a show.
Oh, no. I was talking about Perez as an example, like the top,
Okay.
top tier of like the women's division on that show. In the top tier, she's only 22, and so there's still a learning curve there. But yeah, I agreed. I was surprised when they put Ava in that role, because she was part of I think the faction was the Dyad she was part of when she was first introduced on the show. And yeah, nothing like promo wise or anything that stood out like, hey, I think she'd make a great GM. But I mean, for the stuff and like not pausing and stuff like that, like making the matches and the interactions from that standpoint, I just don't know, especially with how young some of these people are and probably still learning about, how to do a lot of that stuff. I think she's doing fine, but I agree.
Yeah.
Like I was very surprised when they announced her as the GM. But
Yeah. So moving on to the next
I got
segment,
a prediction real quick.
That I never watched NXT again. I think you might be right.
So I think Perez is going to win and get the title back that she never lost because she got hurt. But I think we're going to see the return of Mandy Rose, because that's who beat Mandy Rose unexpectedly, by the way, because I think that was before the news broke about them having a debate over her online content, because she lost to Perez at an NXT match. At a Tuesday night thing. It wasn't one of their main things. She lost, and that's my prediction. I think Perez wins and then is immediately confronted by a returning Mandy Rose.
Okay, I like it. You're gonna get one of these right.
We didn't specify what year that's going to occur, but
the returning Mandy Rose,
yes,
in her age 50 year at WWE. So the next segment almost made me not like wrestling anymore.
Stop it.
It was Obafemi meets his next challengers, Josh Briggs and Dijak. The 5 minutes that I experienced Josh Briggs were 5 of the worst minutes of my life.
Talking wise?
Talking wise, yeah. I have no idea what he can do in the ring.
He's a hoss.
There was nothing physical that went
He's a
on.
hoss.
But man, was he bad on the mic. He told Dijak that he looked like Shaft. And Dijak said, but I'm white. And then he just went like this. And I didn't know what that meant. I don't know what that means. And it was terrible. It was just terrible. And if he's good in the ring, great. His shoulders aren't very broad and they look a little weird. It looks like he's always shrugging like
It'll
this.
It'll be a good triple threat. Obafemi should win, but
I hope so, because it was some of the worst mic work I've ever heard. And Dijak was fine. He actually talked like a person.
Yeah.
Obafemi's not American, so English not his first language. That being said, it wasn't terrible on the mic. It wasn't great by any means, but
I've liked his stuff so far. I mean, he's playing that role very well.
It wasn't objectionable. It was fine. But what Josh Briggs did was objectionable to me. And I may be in the minority here, but if he ever gets called to the main roster, which from the 3-minute talking segment that I saw, he never will. He might not be the company tomorrow. He needs to have a mouthpiece because I don't ever want to hear him speak again. That is not something you can get better at, and I don't mean as a whole. People can get better at their promos. He specifically cannot get better. I refuse to believe that he can get better. So I don't ever want to hear him talk again. This segment was fine. I like Dijak. I think that he's very talented. I think that he's got an unfair shake at everything. Them making him T-bar and just the bad run that they gave him after he was super hot in NXT. They cooled him down. Now he's getting hot again. I like him. I want him to succeed. Obafemi, he's got a nice look to him. I still never seen him wrestle. So once I see him wrestle, I'll establish an opinion of the person. And I'll wait
high on him.
And I will wait for Briggs. I'll wait to watch him wrestle before I form an opinion of him as well, because while he was terrible on the mic, I also recognize that there's a lot of people on the main roster who are bad in the mic. And they either get better or you just have them stop talking. If you're good enough in the ring, you can do that. So we'll see what happens there. But not much to that segment. But then it went on to a number one contender qualifier. And I need my phone to tell you who these people are. I feel like Charles Barkley. Who he play for? Nathan Frazier, Axiom, Charles Dempsey, and Miles Bourne. This was actually a fun match. I don't know any of their names, but there was one guy who just had a pace to him that was just high. He had just a motor. He just had an absolute motor on him. If I saw his picture, I would know which one it was, but he just kept coming and kept coming and kept coming. And he had a motor to him that I think is going to take him far in the business of professional wrestling. Because if you have a motor and you know how to wrestle and you can just go, you are an absolute asset to the company. So we shall see which one that it was.
Do you still have it pulled up?
Yeah. This guy in red pants, if you're looking at the Bleacher Report, it's a still of a video. So it's going to be Frazier or Axiom.
Okay, and they were going against No Quarter Catch Crew, right? Was it a tag team match?
Which one wears a mask? Frazier or Axiom? Which one of those people wears a mask?
Axiom, I believe.
Okay, then it was Frazier. So it was Nathan Frazier.
Yeah.
He impressed me out there. And there's a chance it wasn't Nathan Frazier, but Frazier impressed me. And I enjoyed watching him wrestle because he wrestled at a pace that I enjoy. So all in all, I thought that it was a fine match. I got to see 4 people who I'd never seen wrestle before and 4 people who I'll never see wrestle again. I didn't really see anything that was
Stop it.
I didn't see anything that made me concerned for their futures. I think that there were a lot of bright futures in that match, and we'll see what happens with it. You never know. Then there were a few backstage segments. Baron Corbin and Braun Breaker were confronted by Otis and Tozawa. Baron Corbin always reminds me how good he is.
Those two are having fun too, man. Him and him and Breaker, they're having a good time.
Yeah, when he's on the mic, he's just having a conversation, and it's a believable conversation. It's one that I think that 2 people have, unlike Briggs. When he was talking, it was like, people don't talk this way. Somebody stab him in the heart so we can see if he's a robot or not, because people don't talk the way that Briggs was talking. People talk the way that Baron Corbin talks. So I like Baron. I wish he could come back up to the main roster and get a shot. A nice little Baron versus Gunther matchup would be nice.
Do you remember what got him in hot water to begin with? Corbin?
No.
What I recall is they had some doctor come in there or some medical staff or something, and he was basically calling them out when it came to like the CTE stuff. And he was basically voicing his opinion on how like some of the stuff and how basically, if I recall correctly, he didn't think, almost like he didn't think there were enough safeguards in place and some of that. And, that was, I think, around the time that, the movie with Will Smith came out about the topic and whatnot. And
concussion.
Yes. And a lot of that stuff. And he was not shy in his opinion, if I'm remembering this correctly, but it was around that time that he went from up here to slowly going down on the rungs of the ladder. And to his credit, he stuck around and made the most out of all these gimmicks they've thrown his way. And it's good to see him out there having a good time and having a title run.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it went on to the Dom.
The Don.
Boy,
what happened?
They call him the Dom, the Don, but boy, that was not a good segment.
Stop it.
That was a little over the top.
Stop it. It was perfectly believable from what I read.
He should have done this the entire time that they were doing that segment, because it was just so ridiculous that it didn't need to happen. But you could also tell how much fun the Don was having. So I will give him that. If you're having fun, go out there and be silly, but don't do it at the expense of the credibility of your character, which to me is kind of what was going on. But it's a segment that I didn't need. And I think that most of the viewer, from what I've seen, also could have done without the segment. But I don't know. It was not my cup of tea. I did not enjoy anything.
It wasn't as fun as last week than putting Dragon off in the trunk of a Hyundai.
No. I would rather than put him in the trunk of a Prius than do that again.
And then the Don saying with a camera in his face that he's had many meetings on that bridge and come back by himself, basically admitting to multiple murders in front of a camera.
Yeah. Well, smart. That is smart. All right. So then it was Drew Gulak versus Riley Osborne. And there is a chance that I missed that entire match because I don't remember that at all. I just don't remember that match at all.
You told me you watched it.
So I'm not going to provide. I did, but I don't remember that at all. So I don't think
Who won the match?
Despite what this says. So that was won by Gulak. He defeated Osborne by a pinfall, so he retains the Heritage Cup. He trapped Osborne in the Gulak at the end of the third round, but Osborne survived to the end of time, and he ended up winning. So, that's that cup that we were talking about before. If I had been watching it, I probably still would not have understood what I was watching.
Yeah, I like it.
I don't remember that, and I think I would have remembered it.
And that's the one I told you. That's William Regal's son.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah. Okay.
Wait, I was going to say that. Wait a second. You said Drew Gulak defended the Heritage Cup?
Drew. Well, what I said was I didn't watch it, but Drew Gulak defeated Osborne by pinfall to retain the Heritage Cup.
Hold on. Scratch that. I forgot. When they do that, they can pick who's going to fight.
Okay.
So I take that back. I believe it's Charlie Dempsey is the one that is.
Okay.
Well, okay. Yeah. Okay. That's what.
Charlie Dempsey is William Regal's son.
But he is the one who got it from Noam Dar.
Okay.
But I thought, okay, and apparently I've misunderstood something. I thought that they pretty much did the Freebird rule to determine who was going to go for the cup. But then I thought that that same person had to defend it. But apparently that's that's not the case. If the cup was defended,
all you gotta do is be able to squeeze to get that cup.
Indeed. What was next?
What was next was another tag team that. Oh man, I don't know why they came back to the company, but the OC versus
I like the OC
versus Hank and Tank.
I like the OC.
Yeah, I understand that you like the OC. That's not the point, though. The point is they should never come back to this company because the company was never going to utilize them. And whether they wanted to admit that or not, they're in NXT and they're 40 plus years old. That is
not in my heart. They're 20.
Probably closer to 50 than they are to 20. But the bottom line is they got the W.
Yep.
I enjoy watching them wrestle. It was a good match. Who does not like watching Festus go out there and give it his all? So I enjoyed it, but it was nothing great about it. It was pretty much just a match, but no complaints. And I'm not going to talk.
They got to be setting up for a like a triple threat or 4-way or something, unless they're just going to do straight up OC versus the Wolf Dogs.
Yeah,
but I think there's at least one other team, if not two, that they may try to get in there. But I think the OC, I think that they're definitely with segments previous weeks and then them winning this week, they're setting them up to be part of Stand and Deliver for sure.
Yeah. And then last lead in the show was Trick Williams versus Noam Dar. There was when the match was over with, and I'll get to the match in a second. Mello came out, and it's just Trick was on his knees getting held back by the bodyguards, and the other guy Hayes was standing straight up, and they were like the same height. And I know you said he's not that small. He is so small. Mello is so small that he might. He's way too small for me to take him seriously. No. Yes, tiny. But in terms of the match, it was a good match. Noam Dar's a good wrestler, a really good wrestler. And to me, it was more about what happened after the match when Trick Williams got in the ring and he called out Mello, and then the music plays and he doesn't come out and the lights go whatever. And,
I remember what happened now.
And his bodyguards come out and the bodyguards circle around Trick Williams, and one of the bodyguards rips off his mask and it's Mello. Mello's pretending to be a bodyguard, and then they attack Trick and he hits him. They
whooped that Trick.
They whooped that Trick. And I think that was really what the match was for, was to set up the Trick getting whooped at the end of the match. And but there really wasn't. It was a good match. It was a good match, and it was good storyline afterwards. So I have no complaints.
I'll tell you what I will be complaining about, because it's inevitable. It's going to happen. His finishing move, the Trick shot, inevitably people are going to start kicking out of it, and they shouldn't. They shouldn't. It's a knee to the head. They should not be kicking out of that, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen in Stand and Deliver. I guarantee Mello is going to kick out of one of those. You watch what's going to happen, and I'm going to be very upset about it.
Oh, there's no doubt in my mind that when he kicks out of it, I won't even know that he did it until the announcer says that was his finisher. We'll see.
It's the Trick shot. It's a knee to the head.
Oh, okay.
It may even be to the back of the head. I can't remember if it's specific or if it's just kind of like a V trigger, like a knee to the head kind of a thing. But
gotcha.
Inevitably, as soon as when he did it the other day, I was just thinking, I was like, Hey, that's fantastic. This guy, Noam Dar didn't kick out of it, but Mello will at least once.
Yeah, at
Yeah.
least
Oh
once.
gosh. But anyways.
All 4 foot one of them is going to kick out at least once.
Anyways.
All right. So moving on to the main event of the week, not of the night, Friday Night SmackDown, which was a good show that kicked off with um, Escobar versus uh, Rey Mysterio. And apparently they're going back to the family feud because Dominic came out to the ring wearing a Rey Mysterio mask to distract his father. I thought we were done with this, but we're
I'm glad
not,
we're not.
apparently.
I think Dom has put in the work. He's been a workhorse doing all the house shows and getting probably some of the longest running genuine heel heat in the business. I think he deserves a WrestleMania win over his dad. And I bet, granted, I know they're doing the whole storyline thing. You know, they didn't have any pictures of Ray at the wedding and stuff like that. But I think Ray would be more than happy to do that for his son.
I mean, yeah, he'd be honored, I'm sure.
And I think it's well deserved.
But
Now, granted, it is a
is
little
Ray going to do it?
surprising, but I think, and again, could be looking too much into it with the social media thing, but I don't know if I sent you the screenshot or told you just to check it out, but Rhea sent like the like emoji, like when there was a gif of him like shaking hands with Escobar afterwards, almost like that was not the Judgment Day. Was not made aware that he was going to be helping with the assist in that match. Are we going to ignore what Wade Barrett said, acting surprised when he thought it was Rey Mysterio?
I was with him. I was thinking to myself, 2 Rey Mysterios. That's my Wade Barrett impression.
He fooled us all.
He fooled me and everybody at home too.
Oh.
2 Rey Mysterios.
I think by far the best though was Corey Graves is trying not to laugh, so it had to be like just a impromptu comment when Wade Barrett said something along the lines of, "It's like, well, I guess being a deadbeat dad will never go unpunished." I was like, oh, that's great continuity to that whole thing. And then Corey Graves was he was trying to come up with something to say, but then just kind of started chuckling. And he was like, well, I don't even know what to say or something like that.
But there shouldn't have to be continuity because this is a storyline that should have died last year. But they're bringing it back. So good on them for bringing back a match that happened at WrestleMania 33.
And I enjoyed this match a lot. I did see all of SmackDown, and they overcame some shaky moves, which luckily didn't end up in anybody getting hurt, Ray included. Because at first, when there's a little hiccup on one of his moves at the beginning, it looked like he may have tweaked his knee, and I was like, "Oh, you got to be kidding me! This guy just came back." But they made it through, and they had a fantastic match, and they're a great way to kick off the show. So,
yeah, 100%, 100%, and then it moved on to Grayson Waller and Austin Theory versus, you guessed it, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows for another triple threat or triple whatever match, 6-pack challenge qualifier match. So Theory and Waller won, which again, that was always going to happen. If you book guys a certain way for a long enough period of time, you already know they're never going to win. So I never thought that the OC was going to win because they're never going to win on the main roster ever again. That's just the way that it is. They need to get out while they can. But this was a good opportunity to allow the Grayson and his partner, whose name is
Austin
escaping me,
Theory.
Grayson and Austin Theory. It's a great way to get them on the main card in 2 weeks. So, match was what it was. I'm just glad that they have a WrestleMania match.
Yeah. And especially too, like, I mean, even if they had been being booked differently, just the way that Theory and Waller both bump, and probably more at this stage in their career, more likely to be involved in a ladder match anyways. But with that said, I just wonder, ever since that nasty botch they had when Theory got concussed with Mello a few months ago, just I'm just wondering, like, what kind of bumps that they're legitimately going to have him take going forward, because that was bad. And,
yeah.
I'm glad, I'm glad they're on the card, but again, and post Mania, they're gonna have to book them differently, because I mean, it's one of the, and it's been a theme of this show tonight. Just when you book somebody the same way just about over and over, I don't care if they're in the main event. When you have Grayson Waller versus Randy Orton, or Austin Theory versus Kevin Owens in these spots, or Grayson Waller versus Cody Rhodes, we all know who is going to win. And so they're going to have to, they've got good heel heat, but they're going to have to be booked differently to keep people tuned in at the end of the show, if they're going to continue putting them into some of those main event spots. But
Exactly. All right, then we move over to a women's match between Io Sky and Naomi. And I feel like this is different Naomi music. I could be wrong.
I did like how it started when Io wasn't coming out. You're like, oh, somebody's beating her up, but she just decided to go and whip the shit out of Bayley before she came out for her match. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, all right. I like that.
Yeah. But the actual match itself, it was a good match. Yep. I enjoy watching Naomi fight. I think she's super athletic and super talented, and Io's good too. But we're a Naomi house. That's my wife's favorite wrestler, so I enjoy Naomi. I enjoy her matches. I think that she needs more character development, because I think there's a lot of places she could take her character, but I don't think she knows how to get to any of those paid places. So she needs some help. Someone needs to help her sit down and try to revamp her gimmick to make it legitimate.
Just unless they're going to have, if they're going to have Bianca and Naomi versus the Kabuki Warriors, if they're not going to have that for the title, I'm guessing it's going to be Bianca, Naomi, and Jade versus Kabuki Warriors and Dakota in Mania. And if I had to take a guess, that's got to be what they're going to do to get them, because I don't know what happened. I thought for sure it was going to end up being Bianca versus Jade. And as the weeks drug on, it became apparent that, well, I take that back. Until this past week, I thought it was still a possibility. But now with this interaction, on top of the fact that Cargill is making her first official appearance on the next SmackDown, there's not a singles match for her to have. I say that. I could see them putting her against Tiffy time at Mania.
Well, they had the backstage segment after the match where Tiffany
Oh, that was
came
hilarious.
and walked by Naomi as Bianca was trying to flush out her eyes. So maybe there's a rationale behind that to lay the seeds for a future feud.
Or,
and we also remember at the Chamber, Tiffy is the one that eliminated Naomi, I believe.
Yes.
So yeah, all of these are seedlings. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there.
Tiffy time.
Tiffy time. Then the next match, another one that's going to make me upset, but it is Authors of Pain versus the Street Profits. And when I say makes me upset, just the existence of teams like the Authors of Pain just make me upset because they're never going to win that match.
I disagree.
The announcers, well, they didn't win the match because they're losers.
It's storyline advancement. As soon as they announced this, I think me and you both would say, okay, they've had these factions have been feuding for months now. They have them not in the finals of this tournament, in the semifinals of this tournament for a spot. So, I wonder if whatever team lost this match is going to cost the winning team next week, and then they're going to feud at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, you are right. You are right.
With that said, though, I mean, I know there's only so many tag teams, but granted it was a roll up type pin, but I don't agree that close to Mania you shouldn't be eating a pin, but before a match like that. So yes, I do. That part of it makes me upset, but again, I'm trying to be like, okay, they're finally going to have this blow off feud. But quite frankly, neither one of these factions can afford to lose. The Street Profits have not been booked well.
No, they were firmly in the main event tag team wrestling scene, and now they are afterthoughts.
Yep. And they're going to have to post Mania. They're going to have to, and I don't know if it's going to take, because both of those teams, once they take the tag titles off of Judgment Day, come the draft, they need to split up AOP and Street Profits, and there's really no business that both of those teams should not be dominating their respective shows.
Yeah.
Period.
They're not going to. But yeah, I agree with you. They're not going to.
Probably right, but
yeah. All right, so then the show ended with what everyone came to see: Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns going 1-on-1 with the Great One. So they
the Great One was not there.
That's right, he wasn't. 1-on-1 with going 1-on-1 with.
You can call
Tribal
Paul Heyman
Chief
the Great One if you want to.
Not this one. This one going 1-on-1 with the Tribal Chief, who again exhibiting great heel work, great facial expressions, saying a lot without having to use a lot of words, which is great. His facial expressions were great. He was so happy with himself when it was all said and done that he had lied to Cody when he went into the crowd and snapped his fingers, and out popped who? Out popped Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa. And then, and don't forget, this was supposed to be a match with no bloodline except for Roman, the Wise Men, and Cody. When out of nowhere, what do you know? Here comes Seth Rollins and Jey Uso, because now Cody broke his promise. So it's just a lot of liars, a lot of people not telling the truth, not a lot of actual physical touching, because it didn't seem like anybody wanted to make the first move. But a lot of pro athletes out there, what am I saying? A lot of I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm so exhausted, but a lot of it was a good promo. Everybody knew that those guys were going to come out, and they did come out, which is fine. Um, there wasn't really that much to it, but it's always good to see Roman Reigns doing his job as opposed to what he typically doesn't do, which is do his job. So I'm happy to see him there and talking, because he should be there every. The Rock should not be there every Friday. He should be there every Friday in the build to WrestleMania. He should have no Fridays off. And the fact that he does pisses me off. But he was there today, so I cannot complain. Or there on Friday.
I think the way they're doing this, and I don't remember if they actually brought it up after the main event of Mania last year after Rhodes lost, or if it was sometime in the weeks afterwards, but they were talking about how Cody, didn't go that extra length to get the win, and he didn't go and take it, or he held back, or he wasn't as aggressive, and this and that. And I think now they're trying to hammer home the point about him, just not, just cutting corners. Well, not necessarily cutting corners, but, like having help with him and this and that. And I'm sorry, did I bore you and you're going to Sleepy Town over there?
I am absolutely exhausted.
That was awesome, though. But yeah, I think, in terms of good storytelling, this one, they have done overall a good job of it. And, I think those are callbacks to what Cody was not willing to do then, he's willing to do now. And they're planting the seeds for him to finally overcome the evil emperor, and he's going to reign supreme. So,
no
yes,
pun intended.
Indeed. But, good show. I enjoyed it too. And only 2 more SmackDowns to see what happens.
2 more SmackDowns, 1 Raw. We know that The Rock is going to be at the April 1st Raw. Curious to see what they do for the Go Home Raw and the Go Home, especially the Go Home SmackDown, though. Curious what they do with that. But we are so close to figuring out a lot of the things that we do not have answers to. And I'm excited to see how many predictions I get right, how many predictions you get right. We will do a prediction specific episode where we make our predictions for each match once we get a final match card. But thank you for tuning in to the Golden Squeeze podcast, and we will see you next week.